First meeting of 2025 of Policy and Resources, and welcome all the councillors in the chamber and those who are online. Happy New Year to you. And we'll first of all go, you flashing for apologies, yeah? We'll go to Councillor McCann for apologies.
Thank you, Chair, and Happy New Year to you as well. Apologies for Councillor Bruff, and Councillor Coyle will be here. She's run a bit late.
Okay. There's no apologies from ourselves. And I see Councillor Roof is online, and Councillor Mahan and Councillor, yeah. Okay. So there's no other apologies? Okay. The minutes on confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 11th of December has been signed. We'll go to declarations of interest, if there's any. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair, and it's item 5.1, Appendix 1. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nobody else indicating. So we'll go on to item on the agenda number 4, which is reports for decision, and we'll start off with the Chief Executive's Department report.
Thank you, Chair. 3 items within this report, members, for your decision, please. Firstly, we have attached the proposed meeting schedule, which will run from April 25 to May 2026, and we've just made the usual provisions around the July, so essentially a stacked week in July, a council meeting at the end of that month, and also we've accommodated bank holidays and Easter holidays. We've also included an update in relation to Young Achievers, and this is based on feedback from members that we would really try to canvass wider views around children and young people who would be recognised as part of the Young Achievers event, which happens once per year. And finally, approval is sought, Chair, for the Council to lead an application to Peace Plus under Measure 6.1, and this would relate to cross-border emergency management planning, and it would be a collective application with Monaghan County Council, the Executive Office and the Office for Emergency Planning. So the recommendations are detailed there in Section 8, Chair, and happy to take any queries.
Okay, there is nobody indicating, so Stephen?
Chair, just to propose the recommendations as listed.
Okay, thank you. Thomas?
I second the proposals as listed, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Deehan?
Yes, and just to support the recommendations, Chair, I really think that this is a very good initiative, and I wholeheartedly support it. And just apologies for joining a little late, Chair, and I have no declarations of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you've heard that proposed and seconded. Everybody happy with that? Okay, we'll go on to item number 5 in the agenda, and the first one on that is 5.1, is to consider a report on consultations paper B. Over to Jill. Or Sir Louise.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So there are 3 items for decision, members. I'd just like to note, so the first one is the Department of Health Hospitals creating a network for better outcomes, public consultation. And just like to note that the Council requested an extension to the deadline to the 28th of February to allow for consideration of a rural needs impact assessment. However, we brought this draft response in the if that request were to be rejected. So there are 3 key points. So firstly, the Council is dissatisfied that the SWAR is not designated as an area hospital. The Council requests that the SWAR is allocated as an area hospital. The Council is strongly calling for the return of emergency general surgery to SWAR and protection of all its services. The Council also calls for an explanation from the Department on how the commitment of the acute mental health unit at Omagh Hospital and Primary Care Complex will be honoured. So the second item is the draft response to the DOE's review of free school meals and uniform grant. So the council is supportive of universal free school meals. And secondly, the importance of providing older pupils with free school meals and as well as younger pupils due to the higher calorific needs, etc. The second key point is that the income threshold of the universal credit and the level of support offered for the uniform grant is increased to actually cover the cost of school uniforms. And finally, the third item for approval is the draft Equality Commission's corporate plan, which we are content with. We're proposing that you're content with, and we suggest that there's more collaborative working between the Council and the Equality Commission for local government. There are a number of items for information. So forthcoming consultations, which will be brought to a future PNR. So the Housing Executive Draft Corporate Strategy, the Fuel Poverty Strategy, and the Draft Executive Budget. The Draft Executive Budget consultation. Secondly, consultations submitted. So that was the Department of Education's Resource Budget, EQIA. Consultations referred to other committees. So to R&C, the Active Travel Delivery Plan consultation. And there are a number of items, members for noting, listed under 3.4. So the recommendation is that the council approves the 3 draft responses on hospitals, free school meals and uniform grants, and the Equality Commission's corporate plan. And it's recommended the council notes the additional information on forthcoming consultations submitted since the last PNR, those referred to other committees and those included for noting. Thank you.
Okay, first to Councillor McElduff.
Yep, thank you. I'm specifically going to refer to the Department of Health hospitals creating a network for better outcomes, that public consultation. It's ongoing, of course, Chair, as you know, and there was a public meeting consultation at the Silver Birch Hotel last Wednesday evening, and a number of councillors were present. I know that Councillor Riley was there and Councillor Deehan, and I attended, and others. Hope I haven't missed any councillors out from the attendance at that meeting. But the top brass of the department and of the Western Health Trust were present at that meeting, and it felt like a significant engagement, as will the online meeting. I think it's yet to happen, perhaps, that online consultation meeting, but that meeting had a feeling anyway that it was significant, and a number of us contributed with their ideas. I think if we could strengthen our return submission here by maybe making reference to the further development of the Omagh Hospital as a regional elective centre as well, to make that additional point, because it says it in the document that it is. So let's note that, and let's call for the further development of the And then if people agree, would like maybe specific reference to the strength of the cardiac assessment unit there. And again, how in an overall health delivery solution for our area, that the further development and continued investment in the cardiac assessment unit should be prioritised as well. And then finally, at the commencement of the meeting last week, a Department of Health person chairing the meeting, a lady, Paula, she made it known that the meeting was being recorded, and she said that the cameras were turned on the panel, but that some people had requested that the meeting either be streamed or be recorded. So she made that clear at the outset of the meeting. Now, since the meeting, some of the participants have contacted me and said, including the group, the campaigning group based in Enniskillen, and also even our own group that is carrying out this piece of work that we're looking at could benefit from it as well. So I'm proposing, Chair, the strengthening of our own submission as outlined, but also if we could write to the department and seek a copy of the recording, for our use, our various uses. Thank you, Chair.
That's your AOB dealt with as well then. Next, we have Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just going to come in on the hospital consultation as well, and just to support Barry's proposal there as well. I think overall it's quite a strong response to the consultation, and I think with that additional strength in it from Barry, that'll be an even better response. Just to say that there was also a public meeting held by SOAS on this issue around the general health issue last week, which I attended along with Councillor Coyle. It was a very, very well attended meeting, and there was quite a lot of concern around this consultation, really around the sort of lack of clarity what this will mean for the SWA going forward, and what it means for the future of the services that are there and the long-term sustainability of the hospital. I think people are really, really wanting to find out more about what this means. I think people are very, very interested in responding to this consultation. But I think one of the things which for me is not clear at all, we've been put into a category called the general hospital, which is a new category. And there's no clarity what that means, specifically around the rurality of our hospital. We've got a very rural hospital here, and that means that there are additional challenges for us here. But I don't see anywhere in the document which actually specifically relates to that. So I think it's a good point to make that because of the rural nature of our hospital, we need to have extra care and we need to have an extra services there. So just want to make that point, Chair. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. And it's on the same point that Councillor Brown was making there, and I suppose maybe to further reinforce it, I believe that SOAS had proposed in their document of that a rural area hospital, that SWA should be designated as that now. I believe that helps to attract, or to have special measures to attract staff to the hospital. So I would like maybe that would also be included in the consultation. That is something that local people are asking for.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Deehan, Councillor Brown, can I ask you to take your hand down, please? Councillor Deehan.
Thank you. Well, Chair, I think that I want to comment specifically on the Department of Health Hospitals consultation, creating a network for better outcomes. And I did have the opportunity of attending the consultation event in the Silver Birch Hotel, and it was very well attended. I think Councillor Barton was also there, Chair, as well as the councillors Councillor McElduff referred to. There was great passion in the audience, and the audience made their points very, very well and with great conviction. And the panel did give reassurances that this document was not about closing hospitals or downgrading hospitals. But I think the point that Councillor Brown makes regarding the change in the name of the South West Acute Hospital to a general hospital, in people's minds at least, it does reflect a downgrading. But we were given those reassurances that there would be no closures of hospitals and no downgrading. But they sought to emphasise that it was about creating an effective network between hospitals. And I think this consultation document really reflects very, very well the various arguments that were made on the night. I think it captures it very well indeed. And the issue of time to reach an acute hospital following trauma was raised. Our roads infrastructure, the delay in the upgrading of the A32, all of those points were covered on the night. But this is a really important document, and I think that the consultation that the council staff have prepared is excellent. And I do hope that the Department of Health will take note of it and take our concerns on board, because I do think that rurality, dispersed rural communities, poor road infrastructures, all of that will have a bearing on health outcomes, and I think that needs to be considered. But happy to support the adoption of this draft consultation, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ruth.
Thanks, Chair. Again, happy to back this proposal. I echo kind of what was said by Councillor Deehan. I don't believe it's a downgrading, but I also don't believe it's a necessary change to the name. All it does is get people's backs up, and I think it's the way that the funding is available to services in the NHS at the minute. It's like changing the deck chairs on the Titanic at the minute. That's what it feels like. I was at the meeting with SOAS with Councillor Brown. I believe Councillor Gannon, I'll give him his credit too, was there too, and there were a number of important things. A lot has been said previously by SOAS, and it's a repackaging essentially of what has previously been said. But one of the key things that was mentioned on the night, and is a very good point that needs to be pushed, that there are things in England called unavoidably small hospitals, and these are hospitals of about the same size as SWA that are too far away from other hospitals, and therefore have access to emergency general surgery and other important emergency services. One such hospital is in a town called Barnstable in North Devon, and that area is roughly geographically the same kind of size as Fermanagh. It's roughly the same population as Fermanagh, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes away from the nearest hospital, and that's deemed unavoidably small because it's too far away from Exeter. So that to me demonstrates that if we were in any other part of the UK, we would still have emergency general surgery. And that's an important point to make. And I think part of this consultation is talking about services, talking about what services are available to what standard of hospital. Well, to me, even if we are no longer an area hospital per se, we should still have access to emergency general surgery on that basis. And I would like to see confirmation of that really from the Department of Health. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We had a proposal from Councillor McElduff that we request the recording. Have our seconder for that. Thank you, Let. So both recommendations have been proposed and seconded. Is everybody happy? Yes. Okay. Thank you. We will move on now to item number 5.2, and that is to consider a report on financial matters, paper C. Catherine.
I'll move over beside Selma. Check that earlier. Members, apologies if you can hear me now. So good evening, members. The report includes 3 items. First one being the management accounts for the period ended 30th of November 24. They are attached to Appendix 1, members, and detail net operating expenditure for the period amounting to £27,119,516 out of a profile budget of £29,083,408, leaving costs to be financed of £28,709,183 against a profile budget for that period of funding of £30,416,742. The 2 other items then, members, are for noting. The first one is an update in relation to the estimates and rate setting process for 25-26. So members held the second workshop then yesterday evening, which follows on from the first workshop on the 11th of November. And we move then forward through over the next couple of weeks to the special council meeting scheduled for the 6th of February at 7 p.m. to strike a domestic and non-domestic rate for the district. And the final item, members, is an update from the Department of Communities on capitalisation direction. I have reviewed this, and members, I would just maybe highlight that there hasn't been any change in the direction from the department in the previous year. However, they do call it an update. So subject to any queries, members, the recommendations on section 9 is that the management accounts for the period ending 30th of November be approved, and that the council notes the estimates and rate setting process update for 25-26 and the information from the Department of Communities in relation to capitalisation direction. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Roof, your hand's still up. Is that from the previous? Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Catherine, as usual. Chair, a few comments and then just a quick query at the end, if I may. I know some people sort of raise their eyebrows every time I talk about a variance, probably more people would recognise it to be an underspend, but I note, Catherine, that we're only at the end of month 8, or these management accounts go up to the end of month 8, and we're already sitting on a 7% variance, so 7% underspend in terms of planned expenditure against net operating expenditure. That, Catherine, is on the back of a 9% variance last year, and quite a significant variance the year before. And whenever I look at this, Chair, and I appreciate some areas of expenditure are over budget, some are coming in quite significantly under budget. But again, the one that I'll use this month again would be waste management. I suspect lots of people across Ranoma would really struggle to understand how we, at the end of only month 8, have underspent £263,308 within waste management in light of all the ongoing disruption to the collection of the brown caddies and the opening times to household recycling centres. And I appreciate, Chair, this will probably, part of the response will be, well, task and finished and the negotiation related to that. And I appreciate this will be probably likely raised under confidential. But again, Chair, it's just a flag that there is there's an inconsistency in terms of that. And then, Catherine, I note, as I say, we're at the end of month 8. I note we've already put much more into reserves already by the end of month 8 than we had planned to for the entire year. So we had planned to put 700,000 into reserves, from revenue reserves into capital reserves. But again, by the end of month 8, we've already transferred 723,000 into reserves. And I suspect, knowing how this council operated or how it's operated over the last year and a half, I suspect by the 31st of March this year, whenever we're considering those management accounts, I suspect that figure of 723,000 is going to be, again, quite significantly higher. So it's to flag that, again, as a further concern in terms of, whilst I get the sense that in areas this council is still determined. I think the lines, I know we talked about it last night, along the lines of service delivery reductions or whatever it may be. We are still doing that. We're still struggling and failing in some areas to deliver some core services. We are pumping more and more into reserves. And then, Chair, just in terms of the one particular query, it's in relation to the 409,638, Catherine, related to the VAT claim. Is that more money than we had planned to get, or is that money that was incorporated in the original figure that we were told last year? So it's really just clarity on that. And if it is more money, what is the final figure? And if just in terms of that, I think it was around 3.7 or 3.8 million. It would just be useful to get a little bit of clarity on that. Thank you.
Apologies as I straddle across two tables. So thank you, Councillor Ovens. So in relation to the query around the variance on the overall position, it is in line with previous months, and we are working towards December management accounts at this stage, which will possibly show a similar variance to the current position in month 8 as presented here tonight. There has been queries in the past on waste management underspend against budget, and the reasons are those as was previously provided to this committee. I would, however, say that maybe in addition to that, there is a little bit of a timing issue in relation to the closure of Dramee landfill site, the impact that that will have on additional disposal costs, because a disposal to landfill, given that the council owns a landfill site, is less of a cost per tonne than what will be to collect that waste, hold it in a transfer station, and then have it treated by the private sector under council contract as refuse-derived fuel. So there may be some movements in all of these figures as we move towards the end of the year, but note the members' comments in relation to the current underspend. The reference to, maybe just to clarify that, the 700,000 referred to by the member is actually a direct cost of capital plan development. And when we come towards the special council meeting on the rates on the 6th of February, as has indeed been provided at the workshops yesterday evening, will provide more clarity and will be seeking council approval to increase the direct charge on the revenue budget for some areas of capital spend that has already incurred. So that's not specifically a transfer to a reserve. That is the direct revenue financing of some capital expenditure. The 409,000 then members refer to as exceptional income within the management accounts in detailed on Appendix 1A and in the narrative of the report refers to, and I think was previously provided to this committee, that was additional VAT reclaim that the Legacy Council had held a claim against the pending outcome of the current case. So that goes right back, and I really welcome that significant payment by HMRC. That will go a long way within the council's financial position, and it is a credit, I would say, to our professional advisors that actually held that claim live. We are one of the few councils within NI that actually held a live claim for that period and is really benefiting. There are others that are now sitting thinking, where will we be, etc. That is the final figure for that, members. There is still a little bit of work to be done on the finalisation of the current claim. So that's bringing it right up to date within HMRC, and that takes a little bit of time as the systems within the council changes to allow that claim to finalise, but it will be settled before the end of this financial year. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you've heard the recommendations on the financial matters. Can I have a proposal plan then, please? Councillor Donnelly and a seconder. Councillor Deacon. Thank you. So you've heard that proposal second. Everybody happy? Okay, we will go on to the next item, which is 5.3, and that is to consider the report on the audit panel meeting held on the 10th of December 24. It's Joe.
Chair, thank you. So the minutes of the audit panel on the 10th of December are presented to this committee for adoption. So members will note that the audit panel considered a number of items from the Northern Ireland Audit Office, including the annual audit letter, which signifies the end of the annual audit for 23-24, and that's available on the council website. Items including an update to the audit panel governance arrangements, the corporate internal and external risk registers, an update on performance improvement, an update on fraud and raising concerns, and individual internal audit reports on asset management, on financial management, in particular payroll and procurement, and also on equality, disability and safeguarding. So the recommendation for this report that the council adopts the minutes of the audit panel meeting on the 10th of December, which are included at Appendix 1.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Green for proposal on that.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that report.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Deacon, are you second or do you want? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll second, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to item 5.4, which is to consider a report on procurement and tenders, paper E, and it's back over to Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this report includes one contract to be awarded. That's for the provision of water hygiene services. one contract to be extended, and that is an annual tender for the manufacture, supply and delivery of signage and fittings, and 10 tenders to be issued detailed in section 2.3 of the report. The report also includes information details of tenders awarded, and there was 4 in the period under delegated authority, and proposes for a collaborative procurement in relation to gas, and that's an NI Council's joint procurement. Subject to any queries, members, the recommendations are included in section 9.1 and in section 9.2 of the report.
Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, happy just to propose recommendations slightly. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Anybody? Councillor Coyle. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.5, and that is to consider report on staff matters, paper F, and it's over to Thelma.
Thank you, Chair. Just 3 items for noting. Just here. So the first one is includes a link to the Chair's reception that was held just before Christmas on the 13th of December. So you have a link there to the recording on YouTube and all the details of the winners and photographs taken at the event. Members may note that we are also rolling out a number of social media posts in relation to that as well at the moment. Item 2.2 and 2.3 are 2 technical consultations in relation to our pension schemes. So those relate to obviously employees who would be members of the NILGOS pension scheme, and 2.3, those employees who are members of the civil service pension scheme. We're reviewing those at an officer level and in conjunction with the pension provider NILGOS to determine whether it's appropriate to submit a response to those. So recommendations, Chair, at 9.1 are to note the items that are contained in the report, and those are listed there at 9.1. So any queries, happy to take.
Thank you, Thelma. There is nobody indicating, so can I have a proposer on those recommendations, please? Councillor Hawkes, and a seconder, please. Councillor Deacon. Thank you. Is everybody happy enough for that? Okay, we are now over to correspondence, and the first is item 6.1, and that is some correspondence from NILGA.
Okay, Chair, thank you. This correspondence sets out the proposed arrangements for the NILGA Elected Member Development Programme 2025. The modules and dates are detailed in the letter, mainly online, Chair, with a couple of in-person events starting at the end of this month. In terms of the cost, depending on the final numbers, so based on an estimated cohort of 20, the indicative cost would be £730 plus VAT. So it's really a matter for members if you'd like to nominate to avail of the course.
Okay. Is there anybody who wants to speak on that, or are they happy enough just to propose the noting of that correspondence? Councillor McElduff.
As a member of the NILGA executive, myself and Councillor Rennie represent the council on that. And as somebody who has passed through this programme, I just want to testify to its value. It's good value, it's important. And Fiona Douglas works closely there on NILGA's behalf to accompany people through the programme. Good, good panelists, good tutors, all that type of thing. And it just allows you to take a step back from local government, and it's an accredited course. So it's a good thing to do, I would say. Any new councillor, anybody wanting to think outside the box a wee bit, could sign up. Thank you.
Are you happy enough to propose the note? Thank you, Barry. Can I have a seconder for the noting of that, please? Councillor Hawkes, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, 6.2, which is correspondence from the Equality and Diversity in Local Councils.
Chair, thank you. This correspondence just sets out really the terms of reference of the group. So Councillor Hayes is our elected member, our diversity ambassador, And at an officer level, Joanne Campbell, one of our policy officers, is the officer rep. So it's really to commend the terms of reference for you and just for noting, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to propose a noting of this, and I do think, although it hasn't been sent out yet, but I do think actually that Nolene's been elected for the co-chair. So that's good news, that's good news for her. So just to congratulate her on that, but we'll be getting it confirmed, in the coming days. So
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Donnelly, thank you. Everybody happy with that? Okay, the next item is correspondence again from NILGA outlining their latest updates.
Sorry, Chair, just an overview of their programme in recent weeks and months. So again, just for noting, please.
Okay, can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Michael Duff.
Yep, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose, but just ask the Chief Executive a question on the partnership panel. What's the latest on the partnership panel? And in fact, not everybody might know what the partnership panel is. What is the partnership panel and what's the latest on it? There would have been postponed meetings and things like that where they could have been useful. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Chair. So the partnership panel was a structure created at the time of local government reform, a review of public administration, through which a representative, so in our case, Councillor Brown, from each of the 11 councils would meet with the ministers of the Assembly, really to discuss areas of common interest, and particularly in the context of strong local government. With the suspension of Stormont, there has maybe been a little bit of a stop-start nature to the meetings. There was a meeting, however, prior to Christmas, I'm going to say October. It was held in Belfast, and the Communities Minister, Finance Minister and Infrastructure Minister were in attendance. And NILGA office bearers would obviously also attend those meetings. And at that meeting, it was suggested that there may be an opportunity now to review the matters that would come before the partnership panel. And that's a piece of work which NILGA are undertaking and engaging with each of the councils as part of it. And it's really, Chair, to try and tie in with the forthcoming programme for government when published, and also to ensure that maybe some of the unresolved matters at the time of local government reform are kept to the fore. So things like the transfer of regeneration powers, for example, financial sustainability of local government, that those matters would be included. We don't have a date, as far as I'm aware, for the next meeting. And on average, they would meet 3 times a year.
Thank you. Councillor Deacon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Alison for her update on the partnership panel. I just was coming in to second the noting of the correspondence, Chair. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Councillor, oh, he's gone. You happy enough, Thomas?
Yes, Chair, happy enough.
Okay, well, you've heard that proposed and second noting of that. Everybody happy? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go on to note correspondence dated the 18th of December from the Department of Finance.
Thanks, Chair. This is in response to the Council's query regarding the permanent legislation to be associated, to be put in place to replace the temporary provisions around the Coronavirus Act. So the response sets out the current position, Chair, and there are some additional provisions, or really a second matter in the bill, and that's specifically regarding the baby loss certificate scheme that officials would like to incorporate within the legislation. And as you'll have seen from the letter, that should be brought to the Executive in early 2025 and thereafter hopefully be made as formal legislation through the normal parliamentary passage.
Okay, thank you. Don't see anybody indicating, so can I have a proposer, please, to note that? Councillor Hawkes and seconder, please. 2 hands are up at once there. Councillor Donnelly, thank you for that. Now we're on to item 6.5, which is other correspondence, and the first piece of correspondence is a letter from SOAS.
Yes, Chair, and mindful a number of members have actually referenced this document in their contributions earlier in the meeting. So this is a request from SOAS for an opportunity to present their recently published SWA and integrated roadmap, which makes the argument around rural area hospital for that to come really before the council. The request is for an informal meeting, and certainly, Chair, having looked at the schedule, subject to members agreeing that would be something that we could accommodate quite soon. And also included within the correspondence is a link to the document itself for members who may not have seen it so far.
Councillor Green.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I would like to propose that we would invite them in, either formally or informally, whichever suits best.
Will you include the noting of the correspondence? Thank you. Councillor Ruth.
Yeah, just happy to second that. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And the correspondence, Councillor Ruth? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is a letter from, set it down now, from FCA.
Chair, the council has been in correspondence. This is really regarding the opportunity maybe to meet with the Financial Conduct Authority, and this had emerged originally from our representations around increasing insurance premiums. So the FCA have set out their role, responsibility, the duty that they undertake. Now, my understanding from this most recent correspondence is they think that this may satisfy the requirement, provide sufficient information. So I suppose the question to members is there anything additional that you would wish to elicit from them through an informal meeting, or are you satisfied that we have enough information at this stage in relation to the scope and remit of the organisation?
Okay, I have nobody indicating on that, so Councillor McCann.
I think in a nutshell, Chair, they're basically telling us that they're not going to meet us. A polite, long-winded email. You know, for now, maybe I'm happy just to note that there is a lot of information in that particular correspondence. It would have been nice, I suppose, to have them in and put some of our concerns to them and hopefully get a bit of a discussion with them, I suppose, but they're not willing to do that at this stage. But for now, I'm happy to note this.
Okay, that Councillor Brown online.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just happy to second that. We were disappointing that they won't come in and meet us because I think, I think there's a conversation that maybe they should hear our concerns. I think we don't have exactly the same concerns that they have in England. There are differences, but for now anyway, we can just propose to second the correspondence.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor McElduff.
Obviously disappointing. Begs the question if the regulator, is there a regulator for the regulator? When they would decline to meet elected representatives trying to raise a very, very significant issue. There's obviously a democratic deficit here. So my question is, is there a regulator for the regulator?
Sure, I don't genuinely know, Chair, but we can certainly try and clarify who is responsible and what the reporting line of FCA would be. I think they may be arm's length, they may be one of these quasi-autonomous, but we'll clarify that.
Okay. Okay, that is the end of the correspondence. I had only one request for any urgent or relevant business, and we've dealt with that already in the meeting. So I will now ask for proposal, please, to go into confidential. Councillor Donnelly, a seconder, please. Councillor Hawkes. So if you give us a wee second, do we get the recording off? please. Okay, the recording's back on again. We'll go over to the Chief Executive for an update on what was discussed in confidential.
Thank you, Chair. While in confidential business, the committee considered the confidential report on staff matters, and the committee agreed with the recommendation and also noted a variety of updates as well, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Hawkes and Councillor Donnelly. And if you give us one wee second, please, the Chair, the Chief Executive has an update on something else here.
No, it was just to say, Chair, we were asked earlier, and thanks to Louise, so the Financial Conduct Authority is primarily regulated by the UK Treasury. And then the tiers are parliamentary oversight, so it's technically accountable to Parliament and reports to, for example, the Treasury Select Committee. Ultimately, the Treasury sets the regulatory framework under which it operates. The Bank of England also has an oversight role in terms of specific actions relating to financial considerations, and there are also mechanisms for independent reviews to be triggered.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your participation in nicely timed meeting tonight. It's went along very well. So with that, I will say good night to you all and safe home.